Jamie.
Chris, Cole. I feel like I can't say your first name without your last name.
Tell me, how did you get started in the film industry?
Are we starting now? Is this happening now? Okay. Oh gosh, I'm not nervous. How did I get started in the film industry? I guess I got my start like 10 or 11 years ago on a movie set I was invited to PA on. And I showed up to this set. I was working a full-time job, and I showed up and worked for free. These random people that I didn't know any of them, and they ended up being like lifelong friends now so far. And I still work with them.
What was it that drew you to PA on a movie set?
Well, so I always wanted to work in film. That's been a lifelong goal or dream of mine. And I just was like, I'm going to take this risk. This opportunity came up. It was like through a friend of a friend connection type thing. And they were like, yeah, if you want to go like help out on the set and just see what it's about. And I was like, heck yeah. So I showed up. We were shooting overnight. So like during the day I was working my full-time job. And then at night I would drive 2 hours and shoot overnight with them. And then in the morning I'd go back to my full-time job.
What got you through the nights?
Red Bull, I guess. Red Bull, but also just like the fun of like the environment, the fun of being on a film set and seeing how it all happens. And of course, back then, like you're in your early 20s, it's a lot easier to not sleep than it is nowadays, sometime later. But yeah, that's how I got my start, I guess.
How much of film set do you think is friend of a friend?
A lot. I think a lot of it is word of mouth and recommendations. It's that phrase. It's not what you know, it's who you know. So true. It's just connections and relationships, which we'll get into.
Tell me a bit how you started transitioning from being a PA into being a DP or more camera department.
Let me think about this. So starting out as a PA was just a way in. And then, of course, I was hanging out with, or I guess like more so interacting with the camera team, because that's where my heart's always been, was the camera department. I've always been like tinkering with cameras and photography and video throughout my childhood and my young adult life. So I just gravitated towards the camera department, and then eventually I bought my own camera and went from there. But I've always been like in the camera department per se. But for starting out, start as a PA, you're not gonna just never be on a film set and be like, I'm gonna shoot this whole thing. So yeah, gotta start somewhere.
How did it feel buying your first camera?
My first cinema camera, I think I bought my first cinema camera during COVID, so only like 5 years ago. And it was like an adrenaline rush. I remember it because it's such a large amount of money for a freelancer, essentially. You get it? Yeah. So I remember I think I bought it on eBay too. And I just remember being hitting purchase and having this adrenaline rush of oh my God, this is real. Now I have this my own cinema camera to play with and, develop lighting skills and everything.
As you've been hired on sets lately, have you been finding yourself more in the logistics department or in the creative camera department?
Lately, it's actually been both. Lately, I've come on as, it's so funny, I'll come on board certain movies or shorts as a camera department, like an AC or an operator or a DP, and then somehow I always end up in a producer or director role, whether it's a second unit director or an assistant director. And I think that's just sort of due to having this assertive personality. I don't really know, maybe it's overbearing personality, but I just tend to be the one that rallies the troops. That's all right, what's next on our list? And I'm highly neurotic organized, so very type A. And I think that comes into play. That comes into play for a camera department when I'm pulling focus, because I'm let's measure it out. Let's use science. Let's get very neurotic about it. And then that can also translate into running a set and structure and just the pace of everything. So I don't know if that answered your question. I guess kind of both lately. Like I'll usually start in the camera department because that's where I like to like be and like to play, and then somehow I get like convinced to progress somehow.
Do you think that most set productions forget or don't realize the importance of like a really strong logistics team, and then there just ends up being like a big need there that like someone needs to fill?
Yes. Yeah. Especially with like greener sets, you know, like when you're working on, I would usually say like younger, like people right out of film school that kind of are getting their start as well. I think they don't always realize the importance of having structure because like film sets are fun, you know, like we have fun. Like this is like, it's like you're making movies with your best friends. It's the best. What else is there? But then sometimes I think it can get lost the importance of hitting all the marks of the day and like what we need to accomplish. And like, we're still here for a reason. Like, yes, we're having fun, which is hugely important, but we also need to have a structure and like, otherwise this is a lot of money going to waste, you know, like someone's losing a lot of money if we're not actually taking this seriously and realizing that there's an end product that we need to make out of this.
What would you say to a young person or a greener person who's, you know, they're starting to make their own movie and they haven't really quite realized, you know, the importance of figuring out where like the bathrooms are or schedule? Like, what would you say to a young person to kind of convince them the importance of a strong logistics team?
I would probably just suggest like thorough pre-production, meaning like scouts, technical scouts, like, and also suggest bringing people that you would have for production to the pre-production things. Like, for example, bringing an audio person to the technical scout, huge, because they're going to hear things that you're not going to hear because you're not even thinking about listening for them because that's not your job. You know what I mean? Same with, your lighting team, or someone from your lighting team, someone from your camera department, just having them there. I think that, I don't know how you would teach that to someone other than just showing them or telling them that it's super important to do it. And I think that's a learned thing. I think they'll get it eventually because they'll see the difference between a very like prepared set versus something that's just like, oh yeah, we're just going to use, you know, this basement. We don't have permits. We don't have the, like, you know, we could get kicked out any moment. Preparation, key. I guess that's what I would sort of drive home.
How's your experience as a first AD helped you become a better cinematographer?
First ADing has helped me become a better cinematographer in the sense of figuring out what in our playbook of shots we need to get, what makes the most sense to get first. So all the shots facing one direction, or like how intense of a lighting setup every change will be, and what makes most sense to knock out first. So if the majority of the room is lit for this shooting, you know, one direction, then we're going to get all the coverage of everyone in that direction first, versus like, oh, well, this actor is ready, or like like whatever other reason to move around the room, essentially. So I kind of just try to follow convenience as far as lighting setups and camera setups. I would say, I think being a first AD has made me a better writer than a DP, mostly because of the fact that when I'm writing, I keep in mind budget, timing, like effects, whatever could hold up the schedule. So I think it's been more so, it's affected me more when it comes to my writing rather than anything else. Because everything else kind of just makes sense. I think it just falls into place when you and your team are working and it's like, all right, well, we're already lit for this shot and lit for shooting in this direction, so let's just shoot in this direction. And I think that kind of just becomes like common sense, especially with your team around you. But on a personal level, writing definitely has, ADing has definitely affected me as a writer.
Are there any dangers to sort of pigeonholing yourself into one set role, like just being a boom op? If you'd like to be an AC someday, like just being one set role, is there any danger in just doing one role as opposed to kind of what you're doing is kind of, you know, filling multiple roles and establishing a wider breadth of skills on the film set?
I think there's positives and negatives to both, to, as you said, pigeonholing yourself into one position. If you bring value to the set, whether that means you can do multiple roles and wear multiple hats, and then like, hey, we don't have to pay someone to do each role because you can do 3 of them or whatever, which I won't always suggest that that's like a great thing. But if you really need, like, I need somebody that's a really good boom op, or is a really good first AC that has experience on anamorphic lenses, like specifically, versus I need someone who can AC, but also DIT when we need it, and also boom op when we need it. Like, I think there's positives and negatives to both. So if you want to be, let's say, a first AC, don't sign up for boom opping then, like, don't sign up for other jobs just to get on a set. My suggestion would be to start, if you're just starting out, PAing obviously is a good way to get your foot in the door, because if you have a really strong work ethic, people will notice you. And then when they invite you back and you say, hey, thanks, but like, this time could I be a camera PA? I'm really good at organizing gear. I'm really good at blah, 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 whatever. Then they'd be like, sure. I mean, you're a great worker. Like, okay, if you want to do that, sure, we'll have you as a camera PA, and then work your way up from that. But if you're gonna be like, I'll take whatever I can get, then you might get pigeonholed into one specific role, and that's obviously not gonna be beneficial to you if you're not happy doing that specific role.
Of those skills that you've arrayed out for me, how important is vibe?
Hugely important, I think. I think personalities and relationships play a huge role, especially in our industry. I mean, I'm sure in every industry could speak to that. But for our industry, I think I'm not going to say personally what I think works for a set, but as far as personalities go, but I think vibe, energy, what have you, how well you mesh with others, that plays a huge role in being brought onto film sets, especially by the same people over and over. And that all comes into play with relationships and work ethic, I would say, too.
In what is commonly a male-dominated department, what's it like being a female DP in Philadelphia?
I think being a female in any male-dominated industry is challenging for many reasons. Sometimes I feel like we as women don't get treated equally to men in certain aspects, as far as being listened to or mostly being listened to when you have like your opinion, or you say what you think is going to work best, and people just like don't listen. I don't know if that's just because they're men, and men sometimes I feel like don't listen, but or if it's something else. I don't really know, but I think there are challenges that come with being a female in a male dominated industry, but I also feel like there's a lot of benefits to it as well. I mean, you're able to kind of like set yourself apart from people, because being a female DP, it's like not as common. So I feel like you're able to kind of, like I said, set yourself apart, and doing that kind of job. Like, it's a very blue collar. I mean, DPing, like lugging gear, setting up shots, like setting up lighting. It's physical work, it's labor. And seeing a woman do that and is able to like hang with the guys, like, run with the big dogs type thing. Like, I think that's a huge, trying to think, like a huge asset to the set.
Is there something that you think a woman's eye can provide to a film set or a shot that a guy's mind might miss?
Maybe not. But I do think that there are other things that women can, like, especially with directing and emotion. I don't know about the camera department specifically. I feel like I have good ideas, and my like male DP counterparts have good ideas, and I don't know if one outvalues the other. But I think when it comes to emotion, and understanding certain things, especially on set as like as an AD, and like understanding like this could make actors uncomfortable and we're not going to get a great performance if they're uncomfortable. So let's see what we can do to change that situation for them. So yeah, I know it's not necessarily camera related or DP related, but definitely I think it's good to have women and men on set, like working in a collaborative way, because women offer things that men don't and vice versa. I mean, like I said, having a way, being a woman and understanding certain like reading the room and understanding certain emotions, I think that definitely is something that like women can bring to the table. And not saying that men like don't see these things, but sometimes like, they're there, they set up, they do this, and we're seeing the actors behind the scenes and like, are they comfortable? Like, is this, especially if it's like a intimate scene or a vulnerable scene, like, all right, guys, we need to be quiet because our actor's trying to get in their headspace and you guys won't stop, doing like TikTok imitations or something stupid. Like, can we focus?
Tell me what you think one of the best courses for action is when tensions are getting really high on set and people are ready to get frustrated with each other. What do you think is the best way to kind of de-escalate?
So I think the best way to de-escalate when things kind of get tense on set, as they tend to do, working long hours in close quarters on minimal sleep, I think there's a few things. One of them is in the moment, just like walking away, taking a break. Like you need a minute to just be away from whatever is causing the tension, the trigger, whatever you want to word it as. And the other thing is and this one I actually just learned in the last few years, it's not that serious. Like it is, for example, ADing Terrifier 3. There's a lot of money on the line, and tensions can get heated. And then, the director would just be like, it's a killer clown movie. And we're like, yeah, like it's just a killer clown movie. It's not that deep. We're not brain surgeons. No one's lives are at stake here. It's literally a clown movie. And that kind of puts things into perspective. Like, all right, do we really need this to affect our mental health and our mental well-being when in the end, like, we're just making movies? I think it's important to remember not to let these things affect your mental health or mental well-being, because like we're just making movies. We're just doing the entertaining arts.
It almost gives you power over the emotion when you're able to kind of look at it and kind of laugh at it a bit. So like, hey, it's just a clown movie. Like if there's a lot of, how ridiculous is it that we're getting so frustrated over, this simple thing here? So
Right. And I think another way to sort of de-escalate things is to realize that it's not personal, especially when things are like when tensions are high, like I had said, like minimal sleep and long hours. It's not personal. So if somebody snaps at you or gives you an attitude, like to be like, oh my gosh, they don't like me, or I can't believe they said that, or whatever, like you can disagree with like the way they handle things, but if you take every single thing personally, you're just going to end up being an emotional like basket case, when in reality, we're all just trying to get the same job done. We just want to finish the movie.
can you tell me a little bit about compatibility on a film set and, maybe the impermanence of relationships sometimes? Like sometimes not everybody's going to be somebody you work well with, kind of finding your tribe, finding that crew of people that really align exactly with how you work.
Right, yeah. Finding the people that you mesh with is, I think, a huge part of your trajectory for your film career. You work with so many different people, so many different personalities, and that's good because it can weed out. It can help you realize who you click with, who you connect with on a creative level, on a personal level, on a professional level, and who maybe isn't for you, or maybe you guys just don't see eye to eye, or you don't align on certain things. And once you find the people that you work well with, I think the loyalty to those people is really important, in my opinion. I know I got really lucky 11 years ago on that first film set that I PA'd, that I built a really close relationship with those people. I consider them like my brothers. They're like my family. And then we went on to make Terrifier and Stream and all these other like great things that we're really excited for. And there's other people that you work with that you don't always mesh with, and maybe they don't understand your sense of humor, or maybe there's a miscommunication, and you just kind of live and let live, I guess. move on.
What does this loyalty look like for you?
I think that can look like, loyalty looks like a lot of different things. For example, I've worked on sets with, I have a very close knit inner circle now that has gotten smaller as the years have gone on. And maybe other people don't see the value in the people that we see value in our circle. And if they threaten, like, we don't want to work with this person, then it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, if we lose them, we lose all of us, because we're a package deal and we work so well together and know how each other works that this production is going to go way smoother if all of our people that are like trained to be in these roles are working together cohesively. So basically having your team's back, I think, would be loyalty. Having your team's back, sticking up for them, and knowing, backing them up, I guess, if there's any sort of reason to, if it ever comes to it. But yeah, and then also just certain loyalty, as in loyalty, also like if there's certain like dates or projects that are like potential, and then like if they come through and they're like, hey, we have this opportunity, you obviously are going to kind of put more emphasis on your team's projects than someone else's or a corporate gig or whatever. And also, I mean, we're supportive of everything that everyone in our group is doing. So some of the people in our group are really heavily focused on comedy, and so like we'll go and help them build their brand for comedy. And then when we have a horror thing going on, they'll help us build our horror vision, whatever that may be. And we kind of just are under the assumption that like if one person grows or makes it, I hate saying that, if one person sort of has success, the whole group does, because like high tides raise all the boats, whatever.
I love that saying. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, we want all of us to be successful, whatever that looks like. So it's really just helping each other. And then also, I mean, the loyalty kind of just comes naturally, because it's like, these are my family. Like when you're working with the same people for a decade, their ins and their outs. Like, what makes them tick, and like you've seen the goods and the good side and the bad side of them. So yeah, like they become family.
It's almost like you're as loyal as you are when you speak of somebody behind their back.
Yeah, that's it. That's so funny, actually. One of my really close friends, I'm like, I joke around with him to his face, like we're ruthless to each other, just brutal. But I mean, it's all in jest and fun. But then in reality, if somebody actually is saying hurtful things about him, there have been multiple occasions where I'll stick up for him, and I'll be like, no, like he's our friend. He's a hard worker, blah, 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 blah. And these are things that I say behind his back, but to his face, I'm like cracking jokes, and like we just call each other like stupid names and stuff. But like, yeah, I think what you say about people behind their back says a lot about you. And the people that I know do that, I try to just sort of stay away, because if they're saying that about other people, what are they saying about you?
Yep. There's a lot of gossip in this industry.
Especially in the Philly market. That's why I've sort of... primarily now in the New York and New Jersey market, but there's so many wonderful people though in the Philly market, really, that I really hope that they can break-in. Honestly, I feel like they should start going to New York. I feel like some people are so good they could move up. Not that New York is necessarily like moving up, but Philly, you can only go so far in Philly. And a producer told me many years ago, I had interviewed a producer out in LA, like over the phone, and I asked him for any advice, and he said, become known before you move, because I at the time I wanted to move to LA so bad, many years ago. And the producer said, right, welcome to the club. The producer, he had said that his advice was to become known in your market first, wherever that was. And for me, obviously, it was Philadelphia, before you make any moves to bigger markets. So that's sort of what I was getting at, was I feel like there's a lot of talented people in the Philly market that could move into bigger markets. I'm not going to name drop any of them, but I think that there's a lot of talent in Philadelphia.
Yeah, there's an authenticity. There's like a grit to Philadelphia.
There's a grit. Authenticity, we'll see. Grit, yes, I do. I actually, whenever I'm with like the team, the New York team, and everyone's like, oh, where are you from? And they're like, Staten Island or like Queens or whatever. And I'm like, Philly. And I actually have like a little sense of pride saying that, because I feel like I'm like just a little bit grittier.
Yeah, I've been mugged at gunpoint with the camera in my hand.
Yeah, right.
Twice.
Like I've had equipment stolen from my car.
I love that.
Oh my gosh. We we win championships. We set our city on fire. Come at us. No one likes us. We don't care.
I've come to discover that speaking ill of someone behind their back does absolutely nothing for you. That other people can detect you as untrustworthy if you're constantly bad-mouthing other people. Now, if somebody's seriously harmed you in the past and there's a warning, that's different. But to speak ill of somebody behind their back, I feel like it does nothing for you.
As the person doing the bad, saying the ill will.
Yeah, being the person who's speaking poorly of someone else.
Right.
I don't know. What's your comment on that?
I think that that's really challenging, because sometimes I feel like those people are really good at hiding their true intentions. I know I've definitely been bamboozled in the past. So I think that sometimes people can say like these negative things about people, and then you can start to feel sympathy for those people, or like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you went through that, or I can't believe you that person did this to you. And then that's really, I think that can be a challenge, because you start to feel sympathy for these people, and then you realize like, oh, they are the ones that are the ones that are doing the bad things, the not who they're talking about. But also, like, as somebody that's had people say things about me, you just sort of have to move on and not believe everything you hear. And
it's like you're working on something and they're spending their time talking about you, thinking about you.
Yeah, it's where people put their energy. It's like a friend. I had a friend who went through a bad breakup recently, and he would message me and just be like, I can't believe I can't believe this person's doing, like, an ex or something. I can't believe they're doing this. And I'm like, dude, let them, like, move on, focus on you.
I'm sorry, I have to. I can't. I got it.
Uh-oh.
I've got a book here. It's a really good book.
Shut up. That's so funny.
Yeah,
The let them theory.
yeah, this is just like the poster child for present-mindedness. So I might give you this book after.
Honestly, that's
if
so,
you read, but
what I do read, actually. That's really funny. Yeah, let them, because focusing on your own shit is so important. Like, why give your energy and your, like, why give your energy to someone else that's not even part of where you're trying to go in life? What good does that do? Who cares? Who cares what you think about them? Who cares what they think about you? If I could go back in time and talk to, like, 15-year-old Jamie, I would just be like, focus on your career. Who cares about the bullies? Who cares what boys or girls are saying? Like, who cares? Focus on your own shit. Because in the end, none of that matters. Those people don't matter. Like, who cares? And eventually the truth always comes out. So move on.
That's my first core value is truth. So
True. Good. Okay. Let's talk about truth.
getting deep today. I love it. So you've experienced, your share of mental adversities and people hurting you in a vindictive sense, even possibly. Tell me a little bit about what resilience means to you. And after all this pain you've been going through, what keeps you going?
I tend to be really hard on myself as far as, which is part of what drives me to continue to learn and grow and create and challenge myself. And I think that having resilience, being resilient, is a huge part of growing in our industry. Because you're going to get no, I mean, our industry is brutal. You get told no 1,000 times, or like, this idea sucks, or this shot sucks, or whatever, whatever. The no's, the rejection, it's constant. It's all around. So I think that also kind of ties back to not taking things personally, because sometimes, like for actors, for example, like you might have a killer audition and you slay the audition, you nail it, but like it's not what the director had in mind as far as the look, so you don't get it. Does that mean you're a bad actor? No. Does that mean you should stop auditioning? Absolutely not. It just means that objectively you weren't right for the role, and you probably will not be right for many, many roles. But does that mean you should stop and give up? Absolutely not. Just like there's certain projects that might not be for you, or maybe they didn't work out in your favor or whatever, but that doesn't mean you should give up on your goals and your dream, because eventually something's going to give.
If you've discovered this way to not take rejection personally and continue to kind of press on through the no's, what is it that gives you that sense of purpose to continue as a filmmaker?
For me, it's because I genuinely love imagery and storytelling. So for me, being in the camera department and also collaboration. So for me, I love what I do. That's what keeps me going. I have so much fun. I just come back to saying, like, I'm making movies with my best friends. Like, there's nothing better. I think it's just the fact that I just love what I do. I think loving filmmaking and creative storytelling and being able to have certain stories or characters resonate with people, that's what keeps me going, because I just love doing that. I have so much fun on set, and I think it's so cool to see such a big collaborative effort like come together before you. I remember like sitting in theaters watching something like I've worked on and being like, holy crap, this is crazy. Like, I didn't even know half of this stuff went on. Like, I didn't even know we shot this scene. Like, it's just such a crazy thing to just see it happen before you and like know everything that went into that. And seeing people's reactions in theaters, like whether they like are laughing or like grossed out, if it's like gory or whatever, like just that's what drives me. I have so much fun.
So you mentioned you have a bit of a type A personality. Does a high level of work ethic come naturally to you, or is that something you have to kind of intentionally pursue?
For me, I think work ethic was instilled in me at a really young age, just because growing up, both my parents worked full time, and my dad was always of the type, if you want something, go get it. So I paid for my first cell phone. I paid for my first car. I've been paying for everything since I've had a job at age 14. I was flipping burgers at McDonald's because I wanted a cell phone.
God forbid you let your teenager get a job.
I know, right? Oh my God. My dad, I think, my mom too, but mostly my dad has been like the hardest worker I've ever known growing up. He could do everything. Mechanic, carpentry, electrician, plumber, whatever. And I saw that. And I saw the struggle that my parents went through raising 4 young kids. So I think that's where my work ethic developed from. It was instilled in me at a young age. And now I feel like, especially being a woman, I feel like you kind of have to work a little harder. I don't know why. I don't know if this is like a societal thing, but I just feel like we have to work a little harder to be taken seriously. Otherwise, you know, people are just like, oh, you know, just a pretty face in the industry. Like, but no, I'm legit. Like I can run a camera. I can run a set. I can do these things. Yeah.
What keeps you curious?
What keeps me curious? I think it's open-mindedness. I think so. Curiosity to me is like an umbrella term for so many different things that are really important in our industry. One of them being open-mindedness, and also like a sense of humbleness. I don't know the right word to say that. Sort of realizing that you're never the most intelligent person in the room, which is where you want to be, because you don't want to ever be the most intelligent person in the room, because otherwise you can't grow. And everybody can teach you something. Everybody can teach you something. I try to replace being fearful with being curious. So, for example, when I was asked to assistant direct Terrifier 3, first of all, I hate assistant directing. I don't know many people that really love it. If you do, God bless you. It's a very stressful job, but I think being curious and doing things that scare you, for example, public speaking and coming onto a podcast, is really rewarding, because the only way you grow is when you're kind of like being pulled out of your comfort zone. So that's curiosity ties into that, as far as replacing fear with curiosity. Like how can I benefit from this? How will this challenge me? And yeah, I need to get really better. I need to get better at wrapping up sentences instead of end.
You're doing great, Jamie.
Yeah.
What were some things that you learned while ADing Terrifier 3?
Not to take things personally. Remember how I was like, I just learned this. No, yeah. Not taking things personally. And it was like such a blur. Like a whirlwind of just chaos and blood.
And you're responsible for reigning in all that chaos.
I'm responsible for, I always say assistant directing is like wrangling cats. It's like near impossible. Mm-hmm. And everyone is just like squirreling, and I squirrel. So like it's such an effort.
Do you mostly first AD union productions or independent projects?
I've only AD'd independent non-union productions so far. I don't have a desire to AD a union production. I don't really have a desire to AD in general. I just end up doing it for like people in my inner circle, because I know how to tolerate them usually. And, but if I like got offered from like a random professional, set to AD, I'd probably politely decline, just because it's not in my best interest.
Why would you not AD a union production?
Because we do things very unconventionally. My team and I, we do things very, very unconventionally. We have a very similar mindset, a similar mindset of whatever it takes. So if we have to work 21-hour days, we'll work 21-hour days. Union members don't particularly like that. And, you know, after 12 hours, they're like, overtime. And we're like, what? Overtime? That's cute.
Are we making a movie or are we making a movie?
Yeah, right. Is this a job to you or is this a lifestyle? Which is actually probably very unhealthy, both physically and mentally. I'm aware. I don't foresee myself joining a union unless I was on a set that flipped and it was like the only option to keep my job. Also, you don't have to pay union dues when that happens. When you're working on a set and the set flips, typically they waive the dues so that you can join.
Was Terrifier a union production?
No.
Did it have A-list talent?
Yes.
How does that work?
So it was a SAG. So we were SAG. So we did have to follow SAG rules, but it was a non-union production for the crew. So we, again, we're an unconventional team. Like on our days off, first of all, as an AD in general, you don't have a day off. But the entire team on our days off, we were building sets and doing whatever it takes to, again, there's that whatever it takes mindset to get the job done. And it works. I mean, the movie, it made $100 million. I mean, it works. It's just a matter of how bad do you want it. So do you want to clock in and get your 12 hours and maybe overtime and then clock out and then like, okay, well, bye. nice knowing you. Or like, do you want to build something? And that's why we are so close knit, have like a close knit inner circle, because we want to build something together. We're not just trying to here to pay our dues and clock in and collect a paycheck. Like, we want to build a brand. We want to continue making movies that we love to watch. So that's sort of what we're striving to do. And it doesn't always follow the typical narrative of, union rules.
Where can we find your production company?
My company is JFR Media. So you could go to jfrmedia.com, or it's JFR Media on Instagram. Although I need to get better at updating social media. It's not my jam, but we'll get there.
You're too busy working.
Most days, not always. On the days that I'm not working, I'm trying to motivate myself to write and get my personal projects out the door and start pitching them, because that's my end goal, is to write and direct my own feature. And I have a mini series that I'm working on that I'd like to get greenlit and kicked off.
Tell me about this miniseries.
So back in 2018, I shot a short film called Densmore, and it's about this town that goes missing virtually overnight. And from there, this team, or this guy from this agency, goes out and explores the town and sort of unveils its secrets. And that was a proof of what I shot in 2018 was a proof of concept for a feature. But I feel like this could actually thrive as a mini series, like 6 to 8 episodes, with 3 different storylines being told simultaneously. And so I actually just hired 2 writers now to help me work out the series, because I'm new to writing a series. I've written features, I've written shorts, whatever, but this is new to me. And so I brought in the big guns to help me out, and hopefully we can do something with it. But that's sort of like my baby that I want to bring into fruition.
What would you say to a young woman who wants to do what you do and write miniseries and features and be on big sets?
Don't back down. Don't give up. You're probably going to face a lot of adversities, but it's definitely important to not give up and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Another thing that I would say is to have integrity. I know, not to get too, I don't know, judgmental, I guess, but there's a lot of ways as a woman to sell out and make money and become well known. And I think you can be successful without doing those things. In fact, I know you can be successful without doing those things. I have like a very, very strong, like, don't shit where you eat policy, where it's like, don't mess with people in the film industry, stay on like the straight and narrow, and do show that you have value in your talent and in your work ethic and in your communication skills, and that you bring value to the set and aren't just something for people to be like, oh, I want to hire them because I want to see what I can get from them. Like, no, like you're worth so much more than what people think that you're worth.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? So my team and I have something really exciting in the works. I can't talk about it right now, but that will be coming out this year. And hopefully this project will open doors for us with some major eyes, I should say.
Where can we expect to keep up with this new project that's coming out?
Probably social media. So either my Instagram or JFR Media. would probably be the best thing. So I'm hoping that we're shooting next month, and then so May, we're shooting in May. This is May. Oh gosh, we're shooting in 2 weeks. Oh my god. So we're shooting this month, and then eventually, I'm hoping probably before the end of the summer, it'll come out, and then from there, it's more of a proof of concept. From there, we're hoping it'll gain enough traction that we can, make a deal and continue growing, hopefully.
Continue growing.
Growth. That's the goal.
Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Chris Cole, thank you for having me.
Woo!
Oh, man.